Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ecoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And today on the show, I have with me Chris Mackey. Now, Chris is going to be sharing with us strategies and tips for developing and maintaining WordPress websites at scale. Chris is the co-founder and CTO of Imperium Social, a full-service digital marketing and web development agency headquartered in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. He's been helping small and medium-sized businesses with their digital marketing initiatives and websites to grow their online presence for the last 5 years. When not wearing his CTO hat, you'll find him watching movies, working out, and spending time with his friends and family. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show. Pleasure to have you here.
Happy to be here, Matt. Yeah, thank you for having me on. Absolutely.
So, hey, Chris, you've had an interesting journey so far. Who was Chris as a kid? Growing up in school.
Yeah,
who was Chris in high school?
Yeah, I'd say Chris in high school was essentially more, I'd say, on like the sports side. Was very much into athletics and sports that way. Played football. That's what I went to university for. I had like a nice little football scholarship that kind of helped pave the way to where I am now. But definitely was more on the sports side, a lot less on the business side and the tech side.
Okay.
But yeah, very much into sports. Got half decent grades, and I'd say that was for the most part for like the high school thing. Yeah.
Cool. So when did you and your business partner, Wesley, who I had on the show before, how long ago again was it? You guys started this agency about 5 years ago or so?
5 years ago. Yeah. So Wes and I met back actually playing Queens football.
Okay.
So yeah, we had a training camp where essentially you're jocked into a really old building with like all the rookies and all the recruits basically. And you live there for a week while you're doing training camp. And we were neighbors actually. So became pretty good friends throughout the space of that training camp. And then, being on a team for 4 years will make you friends with somebody, whether you like it or not. So became really close. And then I expressed to Wes very early within like our friendship that I was pretty interested in entrepreneurship. Tried to make a business first year of university, like selling like Android TV sticks, basically like those ones where you can put the channel on, you get like 100 channels, all these movies and different things. It was a total blow up. Didn't work at all. But there's one day where essentially I wanted to go around the neighborhood and put a bunch of like flyers and posters up. And he just heard that I was doing this and he literally drove out with me and helped me through the whole process. Wasn't even part of the biz or anything at that time. Just wanted to give me a hand there. So right away I was like, okay, this guy's, snapped on, kind of similar thinking that way. Ended up raining the next day too. So all the posters that we put up all got washed away. So next time had to put some plastic sheets on those bad boys, but you live and you learn.
Yeah,
exactly. And then about a year passes by. I'm looking for a summer job. Can't find one. I'm applying to everywhere, car dealerships, anything just to get some experience. Like I was in sales much before like I did what I'm doing now. Something in the sales space. And then Wes told me about like these door-to-door sales for like window cleaning, painting. It's kind of like a college pro type of thing.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Business. So I ended up doing that. Went really well for like a month. Like we were killing it. And then we were like, you know what? We could probably do this ourselves. It's not hard. We get a bunch of high school kids to knock on some doors. Like Wes at the time was running like the production side of the business for all the like the window cleaning, the gutter cleaning, the painting and stuff. So we're like, you know what, let's just start our own. We started our own company called Student Property Services, ran that for 3 years, covered Kingston, Gananoque, Napanee. At the end, sold that off. And then by the end of university, was kind of thinking about what I was going to do. Still didn't really want to, kind of like join a company or something. Was in business for Queens. Wasn't too interested in going to anything like corporate or anything that way. So I was like, you know what, let's give entrepreneurship another kick here. Had no idea what Imperium was going to be at that time. But voice to Wes, like I'm looking to start another business. You want to hop on? And without a hesitation or a doubt, he hopped on with me here, and we've been running this for the last 5 years here.
Wow, that's awesome. So you guys predominantly build websites for small businesses, correct? Small and medium-sized businesses, and as many other people do, you've chosen WordPress as a foundation to build sites upon.
Absolutely,
which is a smart thing because it powers 37% of the internet. So
exactly.
It's such a what's the
widely
word?
Used.
Widely used. I mean, I've been building WordPress websites since 2007. Cool. So I remember when WordPress 3.0 came out. and all those things. So I always love talking about, I mentioned that because I always love talking about WordPress. It's one of my, if there's anything I've learned lots about, it's WordPress.
Say word, big difference now, between 6 and 3, I imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Biggest thing that's changed is page builders.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I used to work with a theme that's now defunct called Headway Themes.
Okay.
And the website's now some Chinese website that people are just trying to get backlinks from.
Say word, that's how she goes.
To stay all, they re-register their domain name and they're taking all the links from it. So, but I don't know why Clint, it was either Cliff or Clint, I can't remember his name, but he actually developed WP Local, like the software.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
And he sold it to Flywheel because he abandoned Headway, and then he developed WP Local or Local WP, whatever you want to call it, because he says he saw the writing on the wall for all the other page builders like Elementor and Beaver Builder. I think he had a good thing. I think he just panicked, to be frank with you. I think he could have still, it's not like his framework sucked. It was good. But he got scared and said, well, I better do something else. And he unfortunately abandoned it. So I had to learn something else. But anyway, that's okay.
Feel that. It's cool though, being like a PHP developer though. Like there's so much upstream, right? Like if you don't want to do something high pipe into page builders, you can build like a tool that another company can pick up and adopt. I think like that ecosystem is really, really cool.
It's unbelievable. So what's your favorite WordPress theme for developing websites?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like for me, it's basically, I have 2 that I go to. And it's just the reason like how we develop websites for Imperium. And it's either Astra or Hello.
Okay.
And this is strictly because like we kind of build it all from scratch. Like we don't like kind of like piggybacking on a theme that has like preset blocks and like it's going to look like
preset themes. Yeah,
exactly. So typically Astra and Hello.
That's smart, by the way.
No, respect. No, appreciate that, Matt. We have a very like similar plugin and theme stack. So we always either start with Astra or Hello, depending on the requirements. If it's something more WooCommerce, I find like I like just to use Astra because everything's already built into like the headers and footers. Like I don't have to really worry about too much of like the more pragmatic stuff in the back end in terms of like building on stuff that's like nice for WooCommerce. Anything else that's just like more of like a static website. If I'm building on something like dynamic, like listings or something, I'll just use Hello. And I'm trying to push more just to using Hello because we use Elementor as a page builder. So Astra,
so popular.
It's like, I think it's like top 5 plugins right now. In like the WordPress conciliary or something like that.
I would say it's, if you look on Google Trends, I would say Elementor is probably one of the most popular page builders out there. I would say it's the most popular as far as child themes and functionality. Like you go on ThemeForest, you can find tons of tons and tons of child themes that are pre-made, that are already made. And I have a diploma in web design.
Cool.
And it's from sessions.edu. And so I understand, we were taught how to build websites from scratch, where you get you work with the client to find out what their blue sky list is for their features. Sky, if the sky was blue and whatever you wanted this website to do, sky's the limit, blue sky list. What is it? Then figuring out their sitemap, and then from there figuring out their content, and from there figuring out a wireframe, and from there, doing graphical mock-ups, and from there, and from there doing coding it, and then getting it live, and then you got to do all the SEO, copywriting, and all that. I mean, there's content. I mean, I've had people try and hire me to do websites without wanting to do any of that. Like, Matt, why do I have to do all that? I just want you to design me a website. Like, just build me a website.
Big time.
It's like, okay, do you seriously, do you go to somebody and you want to build a house and you go to the builder, you say, just build me a house. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how big it is. I don't care if it's a bungalow or a bi-level or a 2-story or whatever. Just build me a house.
Oh, there's so much involved.
Like, no, you don't.
Yeah,
you don't do that. So why do you do it with a website? Anyway, that's my rant for today. So anyway, I'll get off.
Yeah, I have so much respect too for people. I can't imagine the process with like I know code. Like I wouldn't call myself like a heavy coder, but like I know enough to kind of make sure I can implement stuff. Yeah. I couldn't imagine like building like a website straight from like HTML, CSS, ground up, backend PHP, and making it work. Back in the day, nowadays, with how people are expecting how quickly things, I find that that process has been is tough. I feel like it's very tough.
Well, I had to. I had to back in the day when I was in school.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
I had to build a website with HTML, CSS, and I used a program that Adobe doesn't even have anymore.
Dreamweaver or something it's called?
No, Dreamweaver is still around. Fireworks.
Okay,
they bought Fireworks, they acquired it, and then they whatever, abandoned it, or for lack of a better word. Yeah. But anyway, so you guys particularly work with Hello or WP Astra. You like them because they, there's lots of benefits and features to them.
Yeah, it's lightweight.
With Elementor, lightweight. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is it's lightweight because like there's a huge like things with page builders. There's a right way of doing it, in my opinion. Again, like everything, I feel like my opinion. There's a right way of doing it. There's a wrong way of doing it, and like page builders can add like a lot of bloat, and especially like themes can add a bloat too, like depending on how you work with them. Mm-hmm. So just starting with like a standard theme, just as like Astra or Hello. I think Astra is very much up there with all the other ones like Generate Press for being super lightweight. And just using that as a blank canvas, then to build all the other assets on top of it. That's kind of like how we wanted to do it, rather than rely on certain functionalities. And then you can never have like a standard operating procedures for anything, because everything would be different.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's way better to develop core standards. Just a side note, there's a page builder framework out there, literally called WP Page Builder Framework. Cool. That's pretty amazing. You might want to check out.
Absolutely.
I have a lifetime license to Astra that I bought, but I decided, I looked at it and I discovered WP Page Builder Framework and myself migrated to that. But anyway, that being said, so you mentioned some drawbacks to using page builders. They can sometimes add bloat if you don't use them properly, right?
For sure. No, 100%. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like a lot of people will immediately discredit page builders just because they're like, oh, it's bloated. It's this, I imported a theme that had, 10 images, 20 images, all these different sections, and my site's slow. And I'm also on, GoDaddy hosting's first tiered hosting. My site's slow. And I'm like, okay, well, there's like 3 different reasons, why
there's 3 different reasons why. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the drawbacks, I think, for like page builders is like, honestly, for me, like the drawbacks aren't even that significant, because we've honestly, like we kind of looked at like the environment, 3 or 4 years ago of like who are going to be the softwares that we can kind of piggyback behind and be like, absolutely. I think these guys are going to be successful. Let's just learn this tool inside and out. And like this will be our bread and butter. So like Elementor can definitely have, bloat if you're using 100 different sections, 100 different themes. If you're not compressing your images, just the way that like the code's interpreted, it can be heavy in terms of I think the word is like DOMs or something.
DOMs.
So like there's ways that you can work around that just with how you structure pages using like, they're trying to put out a new update. It hasn't released yet for Elementor, but it's like Flexbox for the CSS that will like reduce.
Flexbox is awesome. A lot more. I use Flexbox. I don't use Elementor though, but I use Flexbox. I know what you're talking about.
So Elementor is now coming out with their version of Flexbox within the builder to really cut down on like the bloat, which is pretty cool.
And the things you can do with Flexbox, like
it's wild, right? Yeah. No,
things I was doing some really stupid things, like making sections that were using, only using rules, media rules to say, okay, only show this on small devices, this on medium, and this on large. And then I discovered Flexbox. And, haven't looked back, because it's just amazing. And it's really awesome that Elementor is building Flexbox into the core of the actual page builder itself. So there was something you mentioned that I was going to ask you, but when we were talking about that in regards to setting up your theme stack and making sure to, so in other words, choosing a stack to work with and learning all you can about it has probably enabled you to scale your agency more effectively, I would say, developing SOPs and standard offering.
I think it's like different, like there's different, I think there's different ways to go about things for like the type of, business you are. Like if I'm a small business, like I don't like plug and stack stuff like this. As long as you can have like a high performing website, you're going to be good. You don't have to worry too much. But when you have an agency, like we manage between like 100 to 150 websites like a month, just making sure that they're all like working and doing well. So with that being said,
so let's talk about that.
Yeah, we need to make sure that the stack is similar, because when we're doing like security updates, plugin updates, theme updates, when vulnerabilities come out, I need to know like what's on these sites. And when we're dealing with clients, like we'll build a stack, for example, like we'll put it on Astra, we put on Elementor Pro, and we build from there. If we need any other extra functionality, we have about one or two add-on packs that are, like you have like happy add-ons, unlimited elements, all these different ones. Like our favorite is Crockleblock, like a big, shout out to Crockleblock, big fan of that. Tool set there for our dynamic stuff. And that allows us, to manage websites, I think a little bit more effectively than a company that would have, 5 different themes and 20 different themes that they get a car guy and like, hey, we'll find this car theme off WordPress. And then an update comes out and it's not, compatible with like PHP 8 that just came out recently. Right. So building that stack is definitely key there for sure.
What do you choose for hosting then?
Yeah.
Like for instance, Cloudways. There's self-hosted websites, like you mentioned, GoDaddy, and there's managed WordPress websites, there's cPanel-based websites, there's cloud-based websites. So you just mentioned Cloudways.
Yeah. So like we've went through the whole, like it's been a long journey.
The whole gamut.
Like, right. Yeah. So like we started with HostGator was the first one. I watched this video on how to build a website and I used HostGator and it was great.
I laugh because I started HostGator as well. At one time HostGator was good. You know that until when they got bought by whoever owns them right now, that big conglomerate company that owns them or whatever, they bought up HostGator, they bought up Bluehost, they bought up JustHost, they bought up Clockwork Orange.
Really? Yeah.
And they bought them all and they ruined them all. Now I don't want to get sued, so they allegedly ruled them all or whatever I have to say, so I don't get sued. So I just laugh because HostGator used to be good. Big time. And now I would never recommend anybody to go on HostGator. So
that's tough. Shared hosting in general,
learning curve.
Yeah, a tough one. We went HostGator, then we went to SiteGround. SiteGround's good. Like I like SiteGround if you have a site, if like you're a small business, you want to, like SiteGround's a great option. Then we moved to WPX hosting. I don't know if you've heard of them there.
Yeah, I have.
By far my if you're an agency that's just starting out and like has like kind of pinch and pennies kind of thing, WPX hosting by far would be like my first stepping stone to like going to something a little bit more advanced. Great support, and their servers they're Lightspeed servers. So they're not like Apache servers, but so they're pretty good, to have a good amount of sites on them. Anyway, fast forward to now, with all the different type of setups we have, like Cloudways by far is our provider. In terms of like the actual hosting, we've had great results with DigitalOcean. They're usually our go-to for choices. And again, too, I'd say the majority of our servers are on DigitalOcean, just because if we start putting them on Vultr, Lightspeed, AWS, Google Cloud, we're going to run into the same problem where there's going to be downtimes, different uptimes, different server configurations where it can kind of, change the website functionality, not functionality, but just how it reacts to certain things. So again, just streamlined with DigitalOcean. But yeah, like in terms of like the managed hosting would be Cloudways right now. Yeah.
So what is it? What are the features about Cloudways that you love that set it apart from those other platforms you mentioned that made you choose it?
Yeah. So I think it kind of stems from like like I'd say like three or four different points really. One is like support's fantastic. They have a great support team, super fast responding and actually care about you. They help you. B is can you give me an example of a time when they provided some awesome support to you? Yeah, absolutely. So like their chat support, for example, we had an instance where all of our sites that we migrated onto from WPX was using like the basic like PHP mailer function to like send out contact forms and stuff like that. Lo and behold, once you start having, a ton of sites on like servers, obviously responsibly on servers, we're not loading like 100 sites on one server. But there starts to become a little bit of issues with like reliability, deliverability, and then you get into like the whole spam stuff, things like that. So some clients were starting to miss contact form emails and was pretty confused on why this was happening when I didn't have any issues with WPX, because I think their system was a little bit more
I know exactly what one ran
less modular. So contacted support, made a ticket, and then, through that, put on like a nice SMTP provider on there, got everything sorted out. They immediately figured out kind of what the issue was. All in all, it's just like, it's very much, I find a very typical support from bad support workers is like contact your theme developer, contact your plugin developer, or like, that's like the generic answer. Well, they'll actually like step by step kind of help you through the issue. And if they can't figure it out, they escalate it to a higher person there. So
oh, wow.
within good questions, like obviously there's not dumb questions I say, but like some questions that are better off where they can't just make an answer like that. Like if you have a plugin that hasn't been updated for 10 years and it's already hacked or murked in some way, and you try and say like, why is my website not working? They're like, well, you actually have to check with your plugin developer because this hasn't been updated for whatever 10 years. But the support, go ahead, Matt.
What's the difference then between them and WPX, for instance?
Yeah, that's what's tough. That's why I don't want to ever like WPX. Have a lot of love for WPX. It's just I found we outgrew WPX which is my second point with Cloudways is like the managing teams and like managing actual applications. WPX support wise, they're on par almost with Cloudways there. They do great support. When we switched to WPX, a lot of it was just we had started getting like a lot more complex, like bigger projects. We did one project for a company out in, not a company, a school board out in BC, where essentially the setup was, it was a 21 site, multi-site sports network that had to like communicate with each other. So they had from basketball to soccer and all the scores and the standings and everything had to be like inputted correctly and tracked and then also visible on the main front. So to do that with WPX was difficult just because of the way that they, they compile all your sites together.
I know exactly.
Yeah. And as well too, like their data servers were in Chicago, where this company needed something in Toronto. Or in Canada, to be Canadian servers for privacy policies. So I had to start moving away from WPX. We started getting a little bit more complex builds that need a little bit more modular setups and configurations. So Cloudways provided that. You can choose between 4 different providers: Linode, Vulture, 5, Linode, Vulture, DigitalOcean, AWS, Google Cloud. You can choose the server location. You can choose the server power. You can really get down to the fine details. And then everything from like configuration of the application. If you need to increase, your PHP memory, if you need to increase like really anything.
A lot more control.
Exactly. And it's not to the point where it's intimidating. Like cPanel is great. Love it. But, to manage a lot of those, cPanel can kind of be a little bit frustrating. It's tedious. It takes some time to get some of like the initial settings kind of set up. Managed hosting makes that very easy. Cloudways also too makes it even easier.
Like you said, there's shared hosting, then there's shared hosting, which usually comes with cPanel, and you have some ability. I mean, there's shared hosting or there's cPanel hosting as well, where you have your own VPN server, because I've ran that myself. But the thing with I think the difference between like what you're doing now and platforms like, for instance, WP Engine or similar sites like that, Kinsta, where that's managed WordPress hosting, or even WPMU Dev, where all they do is WordPress hosting and it's managed, but you don't get to control the servers. You don't get access to the server. You don't get to choose the size. They give you like and it's, let's be frank, it's all multi-sites, and you're using subdomains and mapping your domain name to that multi-site. And that's how they scale and grow and make money. And I found the great part of that was the fact that you don't have to worry about any of the headaches when stuff goes wrong with WordPress. Because let's just be frank, stuff goes wrong with WordPress. It's one of the number one reasons why people, it's number one reason why Duda or whatever it is, this company that, they're claiming, they're in their ads are like, are you fed up with WordPress? Then give us a try. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay. I'm fed up with WordPress, but if I get into your ecosystem, I'm all of a sudden in a proprietary system that I'm married to. And then if I need some additional functionality that I want to add, like come what as it may, you may think WordPress, if people would just, I don't think small business owners realize the complexities of the web, and that, sure, you want to manage your own website with a page builder, but there's so much more to it now, especially with web accessibility standards. It's mind boggling. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, you've chosen Cloudways. There's those managed WordPress platforms and so on and so forth. But then there's these other things coming out. Like there's Cloudways. There is GridPane. I'm not sure if you're familiar with GridPane.
I haven't heard of that one yet.
GridPane, Cloudways, spinupwp.com. They're a child of Delicious Brain, which Delicious Brain just sold all of their plugins to WP Engine. Cool. All of them. It's funny. Yes. They bought advanced custom fields from the developer who, created advanced custom fields. They got bought out, eh?
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Delicious Brains bought ACF, and then they sold it. They turned around and sold all of their plugins to WP Engine. And to be frank with you, I really think that I don't know what's going to happen with this, because some people are not wanting to use things that are owned by WP Engine when they're hosting on they're having this kind of fear or whatever that, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And I wonder if like other things like pods, pods or CPT EI or
pods,
other, I wonder if other, things like that are going to start to get more backing and popularity because WP Engine now owns some of these. Yeah, really.
I feel like it's tough when it's super proprietary, right? Like, I feel like some companies try and go like the Apple route, where it's like now we've got the tools and now we're gonna consolidate them. I think it would be a lot of people use, especially in the Elementor community. A lot of people use ACF.
Yeah, ACF.
So I would be.
It's amazing
if they proprietize that just to be like available on the WP Engine platform.
That's what I'm saying.
Move.
Like what if? Move. Yeah. So
the sale price? Do you know how much they sold that for?
No, they would not disclose it.
I wonder if they released that. That'd be.
No. It was a private sale, so
true.
But I don't know if you know, Delicious Brains is a Canadian company, since we're both Canadians. They're out of Halifax.
Cool. Oh, sweet. There we go. Halifax. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Real Canadians there. There we go.
Yeah, awesome. Spin Up WP, same thing. They're cool. Delicious Brains. He sold it off because he wanted to develop. So it's interesting. I think that's the trend. The next trend in WordPress is
pump and dump
platforms like Cloudways, where you can choose your server and you can get more access to the server, but it's also assisted managed WordPress hosting for agencies. Of course, a plumber is never going to fire up a site on Cloudways, and neither should they, because they need to focus on what they're good at. But as far as people like us go, that's definitely the next move is.
Oh yeah. I feel like WP Engine, like when I was first sourcing out Cloudways, like I was comparing against the Kingsta WP Engine. Cloudways, obviously. And like the biggest thing for me, like I think WP Engine and Kingsta are very, very nice, awesome platforms. But I find scalably to, again, complex configurations, people coming at you with this, that, and the other thing. I find they have a harder pricing model to kind of scale up, and just the way they lock things down. Like I think WP Engine is like 25,000 visits and like this, and you can't like independently, add more resources to things that require it. I think they're perfect for someone, even if it's like a single site, like WP Engine has a single site plan. Like I think if you want like a super good, you're paying 35 USD or whatever for their first plan. Like I think that's a great option if you want a reliable host, do that. But I think for agencies who are managing a little bit more, and again, I'm biased because I like Cloudways a lot. I just think like the granular control of Cloudways is definitely like an underrated big play between like WP Engine and Kingsta.
I agree with you 100% that if you're an agency that wants to make money from web hosting, sites manage WordPress hosting platforms like WP Engine. They serve a specific purpose, but if you want to grow as an agency, your revenue if you don't want the headache and you don't want to make the money, go with WP Engine. If you want to make the money and you can handle the management of the servers and the management of the WordPress and have systems and processes in place in order to mitigate some of the things that go wrong at times, like proper backups and so on and so forth, then definitely something like Cloudways or GridPane or a lawyer told me always to recommend 3 things so you don't get sued.
There you go.
It's like Cloudways, Spin Up WP or GridPane or three options. But so what do you do then? For instance, Cloudways enables you to spin up sites and manage servers and allocate those resources and so on and so forth. But what about the actual management of things? The daily ongoing updates and, things like that. Have you used any kind of automation to, I know there's WordPress plugins out there that do those things. So I'm just curious if you guys, how you guys solve those problems.
So that one's also been very similar to finding hosting, a very interesting journey. And I think now we do something that's a little bit different than a lot of companies, and it takes time, but I think at the end it serves a better result. Like our first way, again, like also understanding like our plugin stack and theme stack are very similar across almost all of our sites. So we know when updates are starting to act funny. And if it acts funny on one side, I know it's going to act funny on the others. Same thing with caching plugins. We use very similar caching plugins.
That is such a bloody brilliant thing to do. And I would encourage other businesses to have the same stack, because then you could even have a testing website. Where something goes wrong.
We have a templated website that we just, when we have a new person, we just copy, clone, and it goes to the server that they're on. And then they're all set and ready to roll.
I imagine what you were going to say is you could test it for updates and say, oh
yeah, no, big time.
If something wrong here, don't update on the clients. So anyway, go on. You were saying,
how
so you guys handle updates and manage sites.
Big time, yeah. So for like updates again, like I think it was like running between like 100 to 150, and updating like all automatically. Updating is like an interesting thing. Like how I find like for updates, you want to take in consideration like the amount of time that the update's been released. Like you don't want to just update as soon as like an update comes out, because then all the other plugins that you have on your site aren't able to like catch up to, like if it's like a theme update, like you should kind of wait a little bit so the other people can like go on and update their plugins accordingly. Same thing with like in security wise, just being aware. Like I subscribe to like WordFence's like blog basically, and every day I'll check just to make sure no big vulnerabilities have happened with any of the plugin stacks that we're rolling with. But for us, it's been an interesting game of like cat and mouse, where before we had a plugin called Easy Updates Manager. Again, good plugin. Did what we needed to do. But it started coming to the point where we're getting like a lot of errors, to the point where like the sites were essentially just breaking, not necessarily like breaking because of easy updates, but some things were getting skipped. Sometimes, it happens with a lot of big plugin providers too, where they'll say they have an update out, but it's not actually available. It is not pushed out into the WordPress directory yet. So then the update fails. Then you have to go back and check it manually anyway. And then the caching is all messed up. So now the CSS is not being served like the right way on the front one. So you have to regenerate it. So went through that song and dance. We ended up pulling that off, then found another plugin actually owned by GoDaddy, which I was very surprised of.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Managed WP.
Yeah.
Cool platform, really cool platform actually. And then so we started doing that for our updates, worked for a good amount, but then again, and the problem I'm still trying to solve is like, we're having some caching problems where after the updates go out, some of the sites are a little bit more complex where like their whole cache needs to be flushed, or like certain parts with e-commerce, you don't want like the cart and the checkout and certain pages to be cached because of the way
you don't.
People are adding like products and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So ran into a couple of problems with that. Still a great tool if you had like 20 sites maybe, but after we started getting a bunch, there's always just like certain things that you have to check on manually, in my opinion. And it's easy to like outsource a lot of this to like VAs or to, more of like an independent subcontracting team to like look at the sites after you've done the updates. But for us now, like we have days where it's just called update day. I put in our group chat, like I talk to the guys downstairs, and like, it's like almost we're going to war with the websites. And we update the websites manually one by one, and they get checked, quality checked one by one. And this allows us to do everything that we need to in terms of quality checks for the sites that, are paying us a little bit more money to be managed. We can make sure and go through a couple pages to make sure everything is good. But now we actually just do more of like a manual updating process. In terms of frequency, it's between weekly to monthly, depending on, what I've seen has come out from either Astra or Elementor. As well, if there's any like vulnerabilities, like an Elementor had a big one like 2 or 3 months ago that had to get patched up. So if I get like a hit saying, okay, there's a vulnerable update, then we go and it's update day today, and we get the job done basically.
So you found those two. So you found tools like Manage WP or even mainwp.com. Not sure if you ever tried them. Not to be as giving you as sometimes too many things go wrong to validate the usage of it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, for us, it's like, we're very, like, our clients pay us like a good hosting cost, because we really do care about like the customer service and making sure that you're like, our bread and butter is like, we're a digital marketing agency, but our bread and butter is websites. And like, if you're hosting with us and we're managing your websites, we're making sure your stuff is dialed in, ready to roll. So like in that aspect,
you're on the right path, by the way, because I met a very successful agency owner in Dallas, in Texas, and the majority of his money came from web hosting.
No, 100%.
Books.
It's a perfect revenue source too, that you can kind of more or less automate, right? So
recurring revenue. Absolutely. It's the best thing to do.
Absolutely. So appreciate that there. But so these tools were great. I honestly don't want to like shit on the tool, because like don't know if we can swear.
No. Okay.
Cool.
I understand.
But definitely
on the tool.
Yeah, but a good tool. But for us, like to make everything like 100% perfect, I just found that we needed to have some manual input. Again, too, like we're not a perfect development team either. I'm sure that there's someone who's probably solved this problem, and it's something that we're constantly trying to figure out. If there's a way that I can automate this, you best believe I'm going to try and automate it. It should be found to get like 100% success rate. sometimes you got to put some, sweat equity in there. So the team really does what it does, goes to war on update day, and we make sure all the sites are spick and spam there.
And that, things aren't break, because clients don't want things to break. And
no, exactly.
If it's automatic updating 150 sites when things are broken, that's never really
big
good.
Time. And some things don't need an update yet. Like WordPress core updates will always update automatically because that's the obviously important security part. But like in terms of like theme and plugin updates, it really does depend. Like you don't have to update your plugins every single day or as soon as they come out. Like it's just making sure the security is still nice and set, and as well like your site's functioning. Like it's okay to have a site that for a plugin hasn't been updated for a week, as long as it's not bloating it or there's not a security vulnerability. Like that's what these things were meant to do.
Absolutely. So just to recap, in order to scale, and like honestly, 150 sites isn't a small number of sites by any imagine. I mean, maybe for your WP engine, it's a small amount of sites, but who cares? Like for an agency to have 150 sites managing all at once, the effective means for you to be able to scale all that you found is number one, having the same stack, not having, it makes some not using Divi and Beaver Builder and Elementor and a theme from Theme Forest and theme from here and here and here and building them all from scratch. And what I mean by not filling in the blank, working backwards, where you take a theme that's already made and try and modify it for the client. And because that's to be frank with you, we learned in school I was talking about earlier. It's more work I find to try and do that than to just build the darn site.
Oh, big time.
And things act weird. And if people don't even have enough money to do that, it's like, you know what? Custom web design isn't for you. Go to Wix. Yeah. But anyway, but that being said, picking a theme and plugin stack that is what you're going to use and developing that, and then launching it on a assisted WordPress managed hosting platforms such as Cloudways or other ones we mentioned, and then manually having update days where you can, so the sites don't break all the time, because sometimes the automated management plugins can cause updates to happen and then break things, which you don't want to happen. Interesting. Because that's the way to, I can't think of any other way if I was going to.
I think it's definitely the easiest to manage, in my opinion, at least.
The only thing is like, with 150 sites, but then the more you add, the more resources you need in order to, if you're going to manually update them. But hopefully somebody out there can solve that problem of being able to, change those things. So we'll have to maybe we'll put our heads together off camera and
for anyone who's watching, the biggest problem I found was like the caching would kind of get mixed up. Whenever there's like an update, you always have to like flush the cache, and a lot of the tools I tried, they don't have like a function that like automatically will clear the cache. WP Rocker is not integrated with managed WP in that aspect. But the cool thing too, in terms of like the manual update process, right? Like we get 2 guys doing it. It takes them 2 hours. Like if we're paying them, even let's say we even paid them $100 to go through the websites, we're running 150 sites, and it's going to cost me $100 to $200 to do an update monthly or something like that. Make sure everything's spick and spam. Like that's a pretty okay operating cost we'll take on. And it's not like we have to do it ourselves. I think that's it's not too bad there. But if we can find a solution for like an actual really good
well, I'm going to talk about some things off camera. So
mess it up. Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to share that you haven't shared?
Not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like the plugin stack there, I think we're pretty straightforward. Just having like a certain set that you rock with. And then the biggest thing is just knowing it inside and out. Like I've gone through the documentation of Astra, Hello, Elementor, Elementor Pro, and Crockleblock like multiple times just to make sure you understand it. And then you can really build anything. Like you need a dynamic piece, boom, that's Crockleblock, which is Jet Engine, which is Pods, which is ACF. So that function there. And then you have the page builder portion that you can build right. And then also to knowing WooCommerce in and out, I would say for our e-commerce clients, that's the one you want to really roll with. I think if you do e-commerce, you're stuck with WooCommerce anyway. There's a new one coming out from, there's
the Canadian darling Shopify. Let's not forget, but
Shopify there. WordPress. Anyway. I'd say just having like a nice mean stack.
Right on.
is really to scale it. You just have to have something that you can replicate that performs decently the same, that's on the same type of servers. And then you're going to be in a better situation than if you had 100 sites built to 100
all on different themes, 100 different ways.
Yeah.
No, Chris, that is so smart. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us, because absolutely,
respect.
Even goes back to what's his name? Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth Revisited, and he talks about building systems for your business and replicatable systems, and not trying to reinvent the wheel over and over again. So for scalability, that's absolutely. So, hey, how can our listeners connect with you?
In terms of like myself, in terms of the company,
yourself.
Myself. LinkedIn would be the best way. Just LinkedIn, Chris Mackey, works at Imperium Social. I'd say that's the best one. Then if you contact us through imperium.social, the email gets sent right to myself and Wes too as well.
Sure.
So that's always an easy way, but I would say probably LinkedIn would be the best way.
LinkedIn would be the best way. Right on.
Perfect.
Hey, cool. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the show today. It's really appreciated. I know as a business owner, you're very busy, but it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and contributing to the overall community. And we really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. No problem.